my head cut off?
No.
It is on.
Good. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. The only guidelines to A Course in Miracles is that you don't have to believe it. If you're here for the first time, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to welcome it. Some of it you will find hard to believe. Some of it will be quite startling. If you use it, you'll see that it's true. And I am wanting to believe that everybody in here today, because Spirit sent them and they wanted to recognize some peace and give themselves some peace and get to that joy that's deep down inside under all the thoughts that we are hiding the good stuff under. Is that right? We want to get to the real deal inside of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a paragraph of the course, then I'm going to throw it open for questions and discussion about 5 minutes, then I'm going to go through another paragraph, and we're just going to pump through it that way. That way we'll get a chance to cover a lot of material at the same time, give us a chance to analyze it so that we can totally destroy the meaning of what we just heard. And that's very important. So, the section is called The Healing Example. If you have the Course in Miracles book in the text, the healing example. Now, the Course in Miracles defines healing as the undoing of fear. So when it's talking about healing, it's not talking about it in the traditional sense that we're used to talking about it.
What page, Roger?
On page 576. It's talking about all healing is the undoing of fear. And so, so when it says the healing example, it's talking about the undoing of fear example. And it starts off by saying the only way to heal is to be healed. And the miracle extends without your help, but you're needed so that it can begin. So the only way to heal is to be healed, but the healing extends without your help, but you're needed so that the healing can begin. You're needed so that the healing can begin. You're needed so that the love can begin. You're needed so that the happiness can begin. So it's telling us the first thing we need to do is accept the miracle of healing. And the ones we accept the healing, the ones we accept the truth, it will go forth because of what it is. So as I accept the truth, then I see the truth. Because the only thing that's making any of us unhappy at any level is our own thinking. That's the only thing that's making us miserable is our own thoughts. Period. We may think it's something outside of ourselves. We may think it's some circumstance outside of ourselves. But the only thing that's making us anything less than blissed out in this moment is our own thinking. Did I say our own thinking?
Yes.
Our own thinking. Who's thinking? Our thinking. So if right now, if you're miserable and you don't feel good and you're depressed and you're unhappy and you wish you were somewhere else and nothing's going right for you, I'm here to tell you some good news. You are 100% responsible for that. It's 100% your responsibility. It is nobody else's responsibility to make us happy. Nobody else's responsibility to make us happy. Not a single soul on this earth is it their assignment to make us happy. Your happiness will not come from anybody else, anytime, at any level. There are just people around you that you choose to make yourself feel good about when you're with them. There are people around you, when they touch you or hold you, you choose to feel thrilled. It's strictly coming from inside of you. Nobody's ever turned you on in your whole life. It was always you turning yourself on about somebody. That's it. That's it. Period. Nobody's ever turned you on. You're your own lover. You've been that way all the time. There's nobody else doing it. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that thrilling? Yes. Isn't that great? To me, that's great. To me, that's great news, because then I don't have to spend so much time trying to get somebody to be the way I want them to be in order for me to feel good. I'm so happy. If you got a tap of laziness in you, you'll love the truth. It's the lazy man's guide to enlightenment. I love it. So then it goes on to say it's nature to extend the instant that it's born. So the instant that your healing and your truth and the love within you is born, you're going to extend it. If you're really feeling good and you're really feeling happy, you're going to extend that happiness and that joy to everybody around you without even trying to. If you're just feeling good, you radiating that love. But then it says no one can ask, and it's born the instant it's offered and received. So when I offer it to you, I receive it, and then I experience it, and it's born to me. So I need to give whatever I want to receive. I need to start giving whatever I want to receive. I need to start giving whatever I want to receive. I used to wait around for everybody else to give it, and then when they gave it, then I'd say I'd give it back. Like when you treat me really lovingly, then I'm going to treat you lovingly back. When you give me the truth, then I'm going to give you the truth back. When you care about me, then I'm going to care about you. That's backwards. Everything works just the opposite. The only thing that's missing in any situation is what you haven't given. The only thing that's missing in any situation is what you have not given. The only thing missing in any relationship is what you have not given. Breathe. I know I've been giving it, but I just haven't received it. I know I've been giving it love up, but I just haven't been giving it. I know I've been kind, but people haven't been kind to me. Only thing that's missing is what you haven't given. That's the only thing that's missing in any situation. Wow, wow. Did I say it would be hard to believe, quite startling, bring up some resistance? Well, sorry. That's the way it is. That means, again, you're totally empowered. It means you, this infinite being. It means that your life is really, can be any kind of way you can possibly imagine. It could be all the joy you ever dreamed of, because you don't have to wait on anybody else to make it happen. That's good news. Now, if you're in an unhappy situation that you want to turn into a happy situation, then when you first hear this, it doesn't exactly float your boat. It doesn't exactly turn you on, because you've already used the power of your thought unconsciously to create situations that you're not happy about. But what Spirit has done is brought you to a class that offers you one of the ways that would change that whole thing. Because the only thing that's happening in every situation is to use every ordinary moment as an opportunity for you to choose to see things differently, because that's how you transform every situation. So it then says, no one can ask another to be healed, but you can let yourself be healed, and then you can offer to others what you receive, which is the same as saying, I can't ask another to be healed, but I can let myself be healed. I can have a sane mind. I can allow myself to be more loving. I can allow myself to be more peaceful. And then at that point, then I can offer you what I have received, because I can't give what I haven't received. So if you think you're an unhappy person who's going to make somebody else happy, if you think you're a person who doesn't really know how to love, but all of a sudden you're going to start loving somebody, then you have an incorrect perception of how love happens. A miserable person is not going to make anybody else happy before they are happy themselves. A miserable person is going to choose somebody who keeps them miserable until they're ready to change their mind. So what am I saying? I'm saying be selfish enough to allow yourself to be happy, so that you can finally have something to give to somebody else. So your first priorities when you leave out of here should be, what would it take to make me feel fulfilled? What would it take for me to know my happiness? What would generate my inspiration? What would generate my enthusiasm? What would make me open my heart? What would allow me to be more conscious? And then once I allow that to happen, now I have something to bring to a relationship. Now I have something to give to everybody else. So usually when you are empowering yourself, the world will tell you that you're being selfish. So usually if the world is telling you you're being selfish, you're headed in the right direction. I'll say it again. Usually if the world is criticizing you, you're probably doing the right thing. You're probably doing what you think is best for you, regardless of what anybody else necessarily thinks about that, so that you can allow yourself to be powerful and happy enough to be a means of sharing some joy and some happiness to everybody around you. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. So don't fall for the I'm being selfish because I'm doing the thing that really motivates me and moves me, but also give what you want to receive, which means don't turn around and demand that everybody else serve you while you choosing to do what you choose to do. Don't be a hypocrite about it. So I love the idea of supporting everybody in my life and doing the things that make them feel good and make them feel happy, because I noticed that when people are happy and having a good time, they immediately share it with everybody around them. They want to share that joy. Okay, then it goes on to say, who can bestow upon another what he doesn't have? Just what I just said. Who can share what they're denying themselves? The Holy Spirit speaks to you. Now, who is the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is the part of you that's still aware of its divine nature. The Holy Spirit is the part of you that's complete love. The Holy Spirit is the part of you that's still connected with the voice for the Creator inside yourself. It's your real self. It's who you really are. It's the part of you that's already loved, that's already loving, that's already free, that's already aware. It's not like you got to put the love in you, and you got to put the intelligence in you, and you got to put the awareness in you. It's already there. We're just not listening to it. And the Course in Miracles teaches us how to remove the blocks to hearing our own guidance, because our own guidance is telling us every minute of the day what to do to allow ourselves to experience the happiness that we say we want to experience. But we're too busy listening to what? The voice that we made up based on what we've learned and what we've gone through in the past. And how can you tell if the voice isn't true? How much fulfillment are you feeling in your experience right now? And how many things have you achieved where you felt completely satisfied? The Course says the one way you'll know when you're following your plan is that when you get the thing you said you wanted, you still won't be satisfied. You still won't be happy. And just 2 seconds later, you're looking for the next thing that you think is going to make you happy. Based on that definition, I've been using my friggin' plan all my life, practically. How many of you successfully, unsuccessfully use your plan? Okay, and probably some of you still think another person's going to do it, another situation's going to do it, another circumstance is going to do it. I just haven't picked the right one yet. I just haven't picked the right situation yet. I'm not just in the right city yet. I'm just not driving the right car yet. I just don't have the right job yet. I just don't have the right degree yet. But when that happens, then, man, I got it covered. And so the Course in Miracles blows all that. The truth blows all of that and tells us your Creator isn't so cruel that it makes your happiness always based on something you can't have now. Your Creator is not so cruel that it would always make your happiness dependent on what you can't have right now, which happens to be the only time there is and happens to be the only place we are. So if my happiness is going to show up, it would have to show up in this moment. So why don't I feel ecstatically happy in this moment? If this is the only place I can experience my happiness in this moment, why am I not happy in this moment? The conversation that I'm having in my head, the conversation that I'm having in my head, the conversation that I'm having in my mind, what you're telling yourself right now. If there is any unhappiness, it's not a future cause of that unhappiness or a past cause of that unhappiness. If now is the only time there is and I'm not happy right now, then it's something I'm doing right now that's causing it. Just a second. It then goes on, the Holy Spirit doesn't speak to someone else. The Holy Spirit just speaks to you. So love is just speaking to you. Your guidance is speaking to you. What does that mean? When I start to listen to my guidance, I've got to be willing to trust my guidance and not necessarily believe that somebody else's guidance is my guidance. So sometimes when you receive guidance and it feels really right for you, and it feels peaceful for you, and it doesn't involve attacking anyone else, if you want to follow that guidance, sometimes it's best not to mention that guidance to anybody else and diffuse the power of that guidance. Because if your guidance is different from their guidance, then they're going to be tempted to try to talk you out of listening to your guidance. They're going to almost feel compelled to tell you what's wrong with your guidance, why your guidance wouldn't work, because your guidance is a threat to their guidance. So if I've already decided how I want to handle my life, and you tell me that you're handling your life in an entirely different way, then I'm going to feel compelled to try to get you to look at it the way that I'm looking at it in order for me to feel validated. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you are really certain, see you later, brother. If you're really certain of your guidance, then be quiet. And show people the result of your revelation by the different behavior that your revelation creates in you. Because you can't share a revelation, because a revelation is intensely personal to you. So if you want to lose the power of a revelation, try to explain it to somebody. If you want to keep the power of a revelation, let them see the difference that it made in you. Let them see it that way, not through trying to intellectually get them to understand the realization. I've gone so far, after 30 years of studying the Course, I've gone so far beyond what I can explain to anybody about what's going on within me that I don't even try anymore. Because I've got to use the same words I've always used to describe feelings I've never felt before. Like I'll say, I'm feeling more loving toward people than ever before. People think, oh, they think they get what that means. Or right now I'm going through transition and changes like I've never experienced before. See, same words, but the internal transition is far beyond anything that I could ever imagine. And all it does is make me want to be more loving. makes me want to be saner. It just makes me want to be more peaceful. It just makes me want to let you be more and support you in who you really are more. So the only way I can get my revelation across to you is the kind of person I'm becoming with you. That's it. And it's not going to be dramatic. It just means I'm not going to be giving you a lot of hell. And I'm going to be respecting who you are, loving who you are, listening to who you are, trying to support you in who you are, and letting you be. It's not going to be dramatic. It's actually going to be, I'm just a more cool-out person to be around who's trying to support you and love you how you really are. You don't need to know about my psychic abilities to float around my house when y'all not around. You don't need to know about that. You know what I'm saying? So, because it scare you anyway. It would make no sense. You know what I mean? So anyway, bad location serves tons of money on gas. Okay, now, how do you move from one place to another instantaneously? By recognizing that you're already there. That's how you do it. If you're just part of the one, whatever it is, you're at all times and all places simultaneously. You just don't know it. And so really changing your physical location is just a matter of changing your focus about where you think you are. That's deep. So don't ever think that you don't keep getting exposed to greater and greater wonders about yourself that will blow your friggin' mind when you begin to get some idea of who you really are beyond a person that's trying to make it in America. That some of us sense that there's so much more to us and there should be so much more to our life than trying to study spiritual truth just so I can try to handle my job. Or so I can just finally get that lover that I've always wanted. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but I'm telling you, you're so much greater than that being your primary function on the planet. You really are. Let's step it up a little bit. How about it, y'all? Let's step it up a little bit. Let's kind of want to go beyond the stuff that everybody else is constantly obsessed with. Because once you start to have inner peace and love yourself more, you're going to be attracting people to you. It'll be like a buffet of love. All you'll be doing is just choosing who you want to be with rather than hunting them down. They're going to show up, and they're going to have no defenses, and they're going to be open, and they're going to be passionate, and they're going to be loving, and they're going to be honest. You know why? Because they know that's the best way for them to enjoy their life too. So they're right on the same wavelength with you. They're going to want to give the same thing that you want to give, which means you're going to have to step up, because for the first time you can't use the excuse anymore that I'm so willing to love, but there's just nobody for me to love, which is really me just not creating anybody for me to love because I'm afraid to love. So if you're walking around thinking you've been wanting the right love for years and years, just admit to yourself you're afraid of intimacy. That the only reason why they haven't shown up is because you don't want them to, because you're not ready yet. You're still afraid to really connect. And then what you do is then you say, well, Holy Spirit, help me remove the blocks to really connecting. Holy Spirit, help me let go of the blocks that keep me from having a loving relationship. But stop claiming you really want something that hasn't shown up yet, Earl, because that's not true. Anything that hasn't shown up is something you don't really want. So if you think you want prosperity and abundance and it really hasn't shown up, just admit, I'm really afraid of prosperity and abundance. Holy Spirit, give me another perception of it. Truth, give me another perception of it. Help me let go of the blocks so that I can allow the prosperity and abundance in my life to come to me. Stop claiming, Earl, that there's anything that's happening in your experience that you haven't ordered out of your power as a child of God. And that will be the most powerful thing you can possibly do to break your pattern so that you can start having the kind of life you want. But it's the hardest thing you'll ever do too. Because it's so easy to project. It's so easy to say it was my mama's fault, it was my daddy's fault, it was the way I was brought up and all the people around me. It's so easy. I can see why we're tempted to do it, can't you? It's just so easy. It's just so easy to say, your fault. But you know what? It's not easy. Because the life you end up creating for yourself is so much of a struggle and so unhappy, it's the most pathetic thing you could have ever done to yourself. It's easy to take responsibility. It's easier to be the creator. It's easier to call on your higher self and let God help you in everything you're trying to do. It's easier following the truth than it ever would be following the teachings of the world, even though we put more attention in the teachings of the world usually than we ever do into the truth, because you have to love yourself to let yourself have an easy life. You have to really love yourself to let some things flow. So what's your first responsibility in terms of that first paragraph the Spirit told us? Let yourself be happy. Let yourself be healed so that you can give something because you have it. And every time you give it, you believe you have it more. Because let's face it, I can't give you $5 that I don't have. So if I give something, I must have had it before I can give it. So every time you give anything, it increases your belief that you have it, and that increases it and more of it. Ba-da-ba-da. So how do you the Course says, by listening to what your higher self says, that means you've accepted what it says. So listening actually means not hearing what you've said. Listening means that I have accepted it, and so now I'm extending it. So I haven't heard you until I'm really acting on what I just heard. If you tell me my keys are on the dresser, I heard you say those words, but I haven't really heard you say those words until I go to the dresser to get my keys. So you can always tell when you've heard something, really, because at that point, like it says, it becomes what you extend into your experience. So as long as I'm listening to this but never extending it, then I'm just hearing it, but I haven't listened to it yet, and I haven't accepted it yet. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Pop it out, pow, pow, pow. All right, here we go. Discussion time, comment time, question time.
He left.
Yeah, he told me he was going to leave.
I
He
know,
told me,
another question.
yeah, well, he'll call me later.
Okay.
It's Doug.
I know.
So everybody's got complete clarity about everything that you heard me say, complete acceptance, nothing to it, you got it down pat. Okay, is that true? Any comments?
I just think it's hard. I'm sorry.
You can say what you want to say.
I think it's hard to be loving all the time and not to be critical and judgmental in this world.
Thank you. So I said, make your comments. Anybody else? Yes.
Well, if you want to hear, when you feel that you desire you want to hear, but you're still not getting the picture, but you feel like you're getting the picture, but then something else makes it seem like you're not getting the picture,
Yeah.
how do you kind of combat that?
This is the hardest part. You ready? You keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, no matter what's happening, because the answer is the same answer no matter what. So if I'm trying to learn how to love more people, then I keep trying to be as loving as I can in every situation over and over and over again, and be grateful to myself for any progress that I make where I am doing it, and then keep on extending it into more and more situations. The error that most people make is they don't continue to be consistent with what they're doing long enough to let it start to extend to every area, because there are areas where they have more resistance and old programming than other areas. So therefore it's going to take a little bit longer to work through those core beliefs, and then they give up. Even the reason why you know it will work in another area is you saw it work in one area. Now people go, well, how could that be possible that, you know, I saw myself have peace in this area, but you're going to tell me it's harder to have peace in the other area? No, not really, because you're determining how you feel in this area about what you're telling yourself, and you also would be determining how you feel in this area about what you're telling yourself. The only difference is you're willing to tell yourself the truth in this area, but for whatever reason, you're not willing to tell yourself the truth in this area, so you'll say this is the area that cannot be healed, but it's really just the area that you're using to punish yourself the most, because you don't believe you deserve to be happy. So as soon as you go, I've reached my limit, I deserve to be happy, you'll find yourself applying the truth consistently in more and more areas. So the reason why a person doesn't apply the truth in more and more areas actually has nothing to do with the difficulty of the area, so much as how little they want to completely experience peace and happiness themselves, because there's some part of them that doesn't think they deserve it yet. So the hard areas are just the areas that my ego still believes I don't deserve to have complete peace yet. It has nothing to do with the person or the situation or the circumstance. Now, some people seem to be faced with challenges that's much greater than the challenges that other people experience right now. So nobody would deny that it would be harder for you to have peace about the transition of a loved one than it would be for you to have peace because you spilled your coffee. But the truth is the same in both situations. I am determining how I feel about the coffee, and I am also determining how I feel about the person I love making the transition. Like one of my very best friends had a sudden heart attack. It made a transition just 2 weeks ago. The person that, it was through him that I even got introduced to the Course in Miracles that changed my entire life that I've been doing for the last 30 years. He was so like a mentor and a friend. He was a brother. So poof, one day he was there and the next day he wasn't. So that would seem to be much more difficult to deal with than spilling coffee. But the principle is exactly the same. What I tell myself about his transition determines how I feel about his transition, and what I tell myself about the cup of coffee being spilled determines how I feel about the cup of coffee being spilled. Don't you see that the principle is always the same? The difference is the specialness of the person or the situation. So it's the specialness that makes it hard. You know, you might go, 22 children make their transition through eating some tainted food in India. And you go, oh, that's really tough. But then when you hear 20 people, 20 children died in a school in the United States, it was a whole different level of response from the country. Notice that. Still children died. Well, why did the Indian children not generate as much publicity as the American children? It's a very simple reason for that. The American children are more special to Americans. And that's what always determines how we feel about anything, is how special it is or how special they are based on the value that you give them. That's why the Course in Miracles first lesson in the workbook really freaks people out when it says, go look around the room and say, nothing I see in this room, on this place, on this street means anything. And people go, whoa, wait a minute, because they might see a little kid going across the floor. And they say, you trying to say, I'm supposed to say my child doesn't mean anything? Well, the truth is your child doesn't mean anything in and of your child's self. It's like everybody around your child is going to give your child all the value that your child has for them. That's why they are not as turned on by your child as you are. You might be thrilled for your child, and somebody else see your child coming through the door, and they ready to run. And you are like, oh, my little, you know what I'm saying? Like you see somebody and they hold up their baby and they look like a little prune, and they say it's the cutest thing that never was born, and you be going, oh Lord, I hope plastic surgery increases by the time they grow up. You know, so it's still your value that you're putting on it that's determining how you feel about it. Is that right? Now, am I saying something wrong or what? So the principle is the same. It's my specialness that is creating my pain. That's why if you break up with me and you're really special to me, I'm going to suffer. But if I break up with somebody I'm glad to break up with, I'm actually feeling joy. Yeah. Check it out. So what was the difference? The specialness I gave to the person. And that's why the Course in Miracles always teaches that specialness isn't love, because specialness is based on our personal values and our bargains and our agreements. So we can take it back, give it, take it back, give it, take it back, feel it 1 minute, not feel it for another person. He says love doesn't operate like that. Love loves period, 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 period. So we're trying to go from specialness to love. And we can use our special relationships to go to love, because they're the greatest places in the world to practice. Because obviously if the person is special to you, it should be because you want to treat them really in a loving way. As a matter of fact, more than you want to treat anybody else in a loving way. So therefore they're giving you the perfect opportunity to practice letting go of your issues so that you can experience good love, because they're challenging enough with people that you love, let alone think you love, let alone actually being in a friendship or a loving relationship with somebody you know you don't even want to see when you walk through the door. So give yourself a little bit of an advantage by at least being with the people that you think you love. Yes?
I have a question about being afraid of intimacy, and to ask the Holy Spirit to help me remove the blocks or see it differently. And if I'm doing that, if I'm asking the Holy Spirit to help me remove the blocks and see it differently, and I don't see any results, is it me lying to myself, or is it the Holy Spirit letting me down?
It's you, Lanny.
Yeah.
Between God and you, I think it might be you. It might be.
But I'm asking and I'm asking. So
Yes,
what am
yes.
I doing wrong?
Nothing.
Okay.
No, the fact that every time you ask, that little bit of willingness is all that's being required of you. And always remember, from a course perspective, you're only ever receiving as much as you can receive without freaking out. Now, it is appalling how little we can receive sometimes. When you hear it, when you really hear that. The course actually says if you receive more happiness than you think you deserve, that it will actually trigger intense depression. That actually you'll find, and some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You start to have everything go right, stuff really happening, and you'll find after a certain point you'll start to feel uncomfortable and afraid. Or if someone's continually telling you how much they love you, appreciate you, adore you, then you'll find at a certain point when they go over a certain threshold, when they go beyond what you believe about yourself, you'll think they're lying to you, and you think they're running some kind of a game. It's like, okay, you told me I was beautiful 10 times, I loved it. By the time you get to 25, man, you're just running down some crap. You don't really mean that. See, because, you know, I can hear that I'm loved 15 times and accepted. 22, then you can't. Right? So really, you think a person is lying to you when you've reached your upper limit of receiving. They could be completely sincere, but just because you don't think you're as valuable as they think you are, your ego has said they're deceiving you. And it's like me. So some people, I'm like the devil in an angel's cloak. That I'm sitting up here saying all this stuff about you innocent and you deserve happiness and you're beyond sin and you're guiltless. People who believe they're sinful and guilty, then I'm the devil incarnate. And I'm black too. So that, so that makes a whole nother level of challenge. So really it doesn't mean that people are being insincere with you. It could be your capacity to receive sucks. And they're giving you more love than you think you can receive. Do you notice sometimes you give yourself quicker to the people who don't treat you as well as the people who do? It's because the people who don't, they're giving it to you at the level you believe you deserve it on. And the people who are giving it to you more than you think you deserve it on, you run away from them because they seem insincere. That's why people tend to not go up in a relationship. They tend to want to form relationships with people they think they just got a little bit head up on. I'm just a little bit more aware than you. I'm just a little bit more conscious than you. That's why I'm attracted to you. Because I kind of think I'm in control of the game just a little bit. But it's threatening to get with somebody that's either your equal or who you obviously realize they're more aware than you. Because how can you fool somebody who's more aware than you? They can see through everything you're doing. So that's why people tend to go down. They trade down and not up because of their desire to be in control. Then they complain about that because they never get truly stimulated. Because you're not going to get truly stimulated with someone who's not equally giving you an opportunity to grow as you're giving them. But you feel safer with the one that you think you already know what they're going to do before they even do it. And you're smarter because you've studied two more books than they have. You know what I'm saying? So just think about that. So really, you really want a person who's edgy. You want to be with people and friends who are edgy. When you're with them, they're constantly challenging you to, can I love a little bit more? Can I trust a little bit more? Can I give myself a little bit more freedom? Could I do something a little bit more than I've ever done? You don't, when you're afraid, you want people that you have a routine experience that you can always predict all the time what you know is going to happen before it happens. Makes your ego feel secure, but you get bored.
Yeah.
You get bored, and then when you get bored, you start projecting. And then when you get bored, that's when you try to change people and make them into what you want them to be so that they can entertain you, as if that's their job. And then you don't even know what you want, so you don't even know when they're doing something you really like. It's kind of sad when you think about it. It's amazing any of us have relationships, isn't it? You and then you.
So I am trying to be more open and vulnerable and intimate, but then I come across emotions like possessiveness and neediness. Right. And so then they feel really uncomfortable. I don't want to feel them, and so then I shut myself off and then keep people at a distance. And I see that that's what I need to work through in order to get to that intimacy and connection that I'm wanting. So I guess, I still don't know, like, do I feel those emotions?
Absolutely.
And then, like, what do I do with them?
Well, first of all, realize that if you are really expecting something in return, then you're just giving to get anyway. So you're not really coming from this loving place that you just said that you were coming from, or it would be okay. They would be allowed to have whatever their reaction is. They wouldn't be, I'm loving you, and you, but you got to come back at me with this really loving energy coming back at me. That's not love. If I'm loving, then I'm just choosing to be loving. And if I'm not trying to get anything from you, you can't hurt me anyway. So the mere fact that I'm afraid of what I'm going to get back, and I'm afraid about how you're going to treat me, and I'm afraid in terms of, then that means that I'm coming from the same place they are. I'm not really coming from a truly giving space. So the challenge is, when I feel that fear, will I open up more instead of contracting? That's the challenge. Is that, okay, I'm feeling some fear right now, then that's me becoming afraid to give. So I need to ask myself, what is my purpose? Why am I doing this? Why am I, nothing will cut down on things you do more than before you're doing and asking yourself, what's the purpose? You'll be amazed. You'll be like all ready to do something with somebody, or all getting ready to invite somebody out, or get ready to go to, and you stop and go, what's my purpose? What is it I really want to go out with her for? You know. And when somebody gets up and walk over to you and introduce themselves, they know exactly what they want when they walk up. They might not, if they ask you to go out and then you say, what for? What's your purpose? And they go to stuttering, then they got a guilty purpose. They can't say, well, I just really wanted to knock your boots. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to say that. So then they're going to go, I want to have a spiritual experience. If I'm coming to you and I really have a purpose that I feel good about, I would not have any hesitation or any guilt about sharing with you what the reason why I'm standing there. But if I have a purpose that I don't feel completely peaceful about and innocent about, then I'm not going to want to tell you what my real motives are. So if you just say, what's my purpose? You say you want $1 million. Why? You say you want a relationship. Why? You say you want to heal. Why? Why do you want to heal? What do you want? What do you want to come out of that? That will determine how the situation is going to turn out, because the course determines the outcome. So when I'm talking like this, I'm not coming from a space like I know it all and I'm trying to tell you because I'm wise and all that. What I'm doing is just trying to repeat back to you what the course is saying in a way that sounds conversational so it'll make more sense. That's what I'm doing. Because I'm just as much to learn as you are. I have just as much of an ego to let go. The only difference, if there's a difference between us, is that after all these years, I'm willing to go ahead and do it faster. And I'm not arguing with it anymore. I'm just, how can I do what it's saying as fast as I possibly can? But in the beginning, rightfully so, you may be coming more from a credibility place. Oh, let me see if that's really true. Let me see if I really buy that. I don't know if I want to buy it. So I'm past that. It's like I bought it. So now I got to do it. And now I got to live it. And the results have been far beyond anything that I ever imagined in my life. So I'm like, okay, what's the next thing I need to let go of? What's the next thing I need to change my mind about? What's the next thing I need to see different? How much can I take responsibility for everything that happens to me today? Who can I allow to be the way they are more than I did yesterday? See, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going, oh, I don't know if I'm responsible for that or not. Let me see, am I really the one that's creating that? That's a very natural stage that you go through, so I'm not criticizing that. But once you found what you're seeking, then use it and stop seeking. It is a such thing as seeking and finding. You can find what you're looking for, and it'll always come to you in the form that works for you. The Course in Miracles works for me, but it might not work for you. But the truth will come to you in a form that works for you. And you can always tell when you found your path because you'll do it. The path that you don't do is not your path. The path that you have no energy to actually put any energy into right now, it may not be your path. It might even be later, but it's not right now. This book asks so little and it gives so much. But in 30 years, I've never seen anything that brings up as much resistance as A Course in Miracles does. That's what really kind of attracted my attention to it. Yes.
Then why did you bring out racism?
Why did I bring out what now?
Racism.
Why did I?
Yes.
In what situation?
Well, you were saying that you're black, and so therefore you're different.
Well, because there are a lot of people, if you told them that you came to a class, first it's a joke, but if you told a lot of people that you know, if you're being honest, that you went to a spiritual class being taught by a black person, some of them would have a little bit of an issue with that. And that's why I said it. It was a joke, really.
Yeah, because I live in California, And there are black people all over the place, and it doesn't make any difference to me.
To you, but there are some people that it absolutely makes some difference to. And that's what we need to realize. But you know what's important? The way I see it is going to determine the way I feel about it. So it doesn't mean that being conscious means that I don't pretend that there are people who have misperceptions of people that are black. That's being in denial and putting your head in the sand.
Right.
But what's really important is how I choose to relate to how someone relates to me, how I choose to feel about it. So I'm glad that doesn't mean the hill of beans to you. I'd much rather hang out with you than somebody that it does.
I'm from Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really young. I was just walking home from work, and the street was pretty.
Pass it around, please.
Was pretty
so that people
empty.
can see. Mm-hmm.
And I was walking on one side, and this black guy
Mm-hmm.
walked on the other side because this was a town where ships came in, and he was like looking at me like this and walking because he had not seen a white person possibly, and I had certainly not seen a black person before. So I was looking too.
Mm-hmm.
But is that bad? Is that just human?
Well, I guess from my perception, whether or not it's bad or good depends on what I was telling myself when I was looking at them. See, in the end, there are only three answers to anything if you really want to be honest with yourself. Yes, true, false, I don't know. True, false, I don't know. That's what everything fits into. Is it true that I'm sitting here in front of you, or false? Okay, so anything you're telling yourself about me sitting here and what I might be thinking or what I might be about, the only honest answer is I don't know. You don't really know. So anytime you tell yourself any story about anybody's motivation at any level, the only truly honest answer can be, I don't know. But one of the main things that people do is what? They tell you what you're thinking, they interpret your motivations, and then they deal with you as if their interpretation of your motivation is correct. And that's the most erroneous way and distorted way of dealing with people in life that you can possibly do, but it's actually the most common way we deal. We sit down, we interpret where everybody's coming from, and then we deal with them as if they're the way we've decided. I sit up here, I decide she doesn't like me, and I'm boring her, right? If she's looking down, and so then I react like I'm boring her. She could be thinking about, did I leave my stove on when I left the house? And it could have absolutely nothing to do with me whatsoever. But then I judge that it got something to do with me, but here's the error. I turn around and deal with her as if my judgment was correct. And that's exactly what 90% of people do who are not aware. They're constantly living in a world that's nothing but their own projections that have nothing to do with anything that's really happening, and then they wonder why they're miserable all the time. So the truth is, the honest would be, she's sitting there, I don't know what she's thinking. That would be the only honest response. She's sitting there, and I don't know what she's thinking. And all of you are sitting here, and I don't know what you're thinking. Now, what would be the advantage of that? It would get me to ask you questions and to check with you and see where you're coming from, rather than assume you're coming from wherever I think you're coming from, and then me treating you that way, and it might not be true at all. So if you're in a conscious relationship with anybody, you can tell because they're going to be asking you a lot. How do you feel? What do you think? Where are you coming from? What's going on with you right now? How do you feel today? What would you like to experience right now? What are you thinking? So if you're around people who never question you at all, then you're around people who think they know you. And the more they think they know you, the more they're going to deal with you according to their own beliefs, which might not have nothing to do with what's really going on within you. So a conscious relationship is always a relationship with more communication, right? So if I'm going to be in a conscious relationship with you, I'm going to be questioning. If I'm in an unconscious relationship, I think I know. So that's how you put the juice back into your friendships. That's how you put the juice back into your love relationships. That's how you put the juice back. Start asking questions. What do you feel? What do you want? What are you thinking? And how can I support that? Try that for a change and watch all the relationships you have start to completely change. Just little simple things make all the difference in the world. Because that's what we are. We want to demonstrate what it is we want to experience. So I would encourage you, when you leave out of here today, that you go, hey, I'm going to get what I want to receive for the rest of the day. I'm going to put out there the thing that I want to experience today, and I'm going to stop interpreting the motivations of everybody around me and thinking that I know where they're coming from without asking them, especially if what I'm telling myself is making me feel separate, especially if what I'm telling myself is making me feel angry, especially if what I'm telling myself is making me feel upset. That's even more why I should check in. And this is the way you check in. You go, I hope I'm wrong about this, but I'm feeling really separate from you right now because I'm telling myself this, and I'd like another way to look at it because I don't want to be right about what's making me feel separate from you. They will not be as defensive as they would be if you said, you know what you did last night and what you were thinking, and you always doing that to me, you bastard! You know, like that tends not to keep the love flowing and out of the next little bit of the conversation that's supposed to be happening. I don't know why we think it is. I used to think the more I went off, I remember being in relationships and I had this real anger issue. And I used to think the more I went off in anger, the more I'd get the person to do what made me happy. And I really thought that worked. Like going off on somebody all the time was going to actually make them treat me better. And it made sense to my warped logic. Any of y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to think the more I go off, the more they're going to do what's going to please me. And all they want to do is get away from you. It just makes them, if they do it, they're doing it out of guilt. And anything somebody's doing out of guilt, they're doing out of resentment. So they're really boiling with resentment for you, not feeling more close to you at all. But if you go, hey, you know what, I hope I'm wrong about this because I really want peace between us, but right now I'm making myself afraid by what I saw last night, what I thought I saw at the party last night. It seemed like you was really making goo-goo eyes at somebody, but that was making me feel, I was making myself really upset about that. Notice not you, which is what when you're unconscious, it's all about you. When you're waking up, it's all about I'm making myself mad. I'm making myself crazy. I need to get out of here for a minute because I need to change my mind because I'm feeling fear right now. See, notice that if you were listening to that, you go, yeah. You do need to go. You do need to change your mind. And at the same time, you be asking yourself, what is it that I need to recognize that even drew that into my experience in the first place? Because it did show up in my face. So that means there's something that I need to become aware of about that also. These are little powerful things that will bring about the kind of healing that will transform your entire relationships, and it'll trip you out because it'll happen in ways you never dreamed of. You'll start to see changes in situations that you didn't say anything about to the person, and all of a sudden you start to see it change in ways you could never change it when you were trying to talk to them. If you're in a relationship and you're trying to talk to the person and it doesn't seem like it's getting anywhere, get away from them, get in silence, and then ask the Holy Spirit or the higher self in you to talk to the higher self in them and bypass their ego altogether. And then want to do it for the purpose of both of you feeling peace. Saying I want their happiness as much as I want mine. And watch what will happen if you do that with any level of consistency. You know, there are a million ways out of all the things we think we're going through, but they're so different from what we've been taught. And then our old self doesn't want to do the new stuff because we built a whole world around that old stuff, a whole personality around that old stuff, a whole lifetime around that old stuff. So it's not going to like run out the door saying, okay, bye, you ready to be new? Okay, see you later, have a good time. That old self is going to try to hang on in the beginning with everything it got. It's going to try to convince you every way possible that everything you're doing is crazy. And it's not going to work. And so if you know that, then you don't let it stop you. Go, oh, thank you, ego, for saying it's never going to work. And still I'm going to say, I don't like the way that I'm feeling. I hope I'm wrong about this. And could we have another way of looking at this? You go ahead and you do the right thing anyway. You feel your feeling, then you do what's right anyway. So here's the process. First you tell yourself exactly what you're feeling. Take it to the greatest extent you can in your mind. I'm angry. I'm going to feel all my anger, and I'm going to take it as far as my anger can go in my mind. I'm not going to deny that I'm upset right now, guilty right now, afraid right now. I'm not going to be positive and pretend I don't feel what I feel. I'm going to admit that I feel it, and I'm going to admit every ounce of what I feel, and then I'm going to tell myself I created it. I'm creating the way I feel about it. I'm the one that's determining how I see this. It's coming from my own thoughts. That's what you do next. Step 2. Then step 3, you tell yourself, I'm grateful that I have the power to create the way that I see things. I'm grateful that I can choose to see it differently. I'm grateful that my mind creates my reality. Even if right now it's creating something that's upsetting me, I'm still glad I have the power to create how I see things. Got it? That's step 3. And then step 4 is, and I am still as God created me. I am still as love created me. I am still powerful. I am still innocent. I am still spirit. And the way that I'm thinking has no effect on who and what I really am as a child of God. That's the process that you can use in every situation that comes up that allows you not to be in denial, but at the same time remember the truth about yourself. So then you're using everything that upsets you to enlighten you. And sooner or later, your mind will start to automatically do that without you having to go consciously through the steps. And you find yourself getting out of a mood so fast it'll blow your mind. Now, if you're ready to keep the pattern going, it's a good chance you're freaking unconscious right now and going to sleep. If you're innocent, that's fine. If you're ready and you've had enough, then you're alert and you're hanging on to every word to try to make sure that you get it so that you can go out here and do it. And in either situation, you're totally innocent because everybody's got a limit and you're going to reach yours. And when you reach it, you're going to go, damn it, there's a better way and I'm going to do it and I'm ready to change my patterns. I don't care what it takes. And I think you're worth that. I think you're impossibly valuable and powerful. And I want to be a constant witness of that every week. That's why I do this. I love you. I bless you. Thank you for coming to my class today. I appreciate y'all. And you're giving it to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm yourself, you're myself, we're giving it to each other. That's a cool thing to do. I tell you. Oh, did you hear that, Earl? 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 You know what I'm talking about. All right, so we're going to do the financial expression of appreciation. I like that. Does that sound cool? Yes, this is what I do in the world full time. Thank you for sharing with yourself as me and seeing that what I've shared is valuable enough to you to share in a way that makes a difference in my physical world. Those of you on the internet who's watching my classes, thank you for your generosity. And if you want to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, and you can do it there. I'm also available for one-on-one sessions called clarity sessions, where I take whatever the situation you think you're going through that's keeping you from having peace right now and bring everything I know from the Course in Miracles teachings, and if you're open to it, everything that I know from the perspective of astrology and numerology, for those who are open to intuitive sides of things, and we apply that all to what you think you're going through so you can see that there's another way to experience and look at what you're going through. There are no original problems, and there's no problem that you can have that's beyond God's ability or truth's ability to give you another way to get out that state of mind, period. So you can also go to my website at earlpurdy.com, and it explains what I do in those sessions in detail. And so if you're ready to take it to the next step, which means I'm ready to take it from something that I'm using to keep myself miserable all the time, and I'm ready to let it go now, and I'm ready to take it to another level, I can support you in doing that. And so you don't have to stay in the state of mind that you're in right now that's keeping you from enjoying your life the way you deserve to enjoy it. Not at all. You're innocent, you're powerful. I got one more thing I want to share with you before you go out into the lab. On Tuesday night, I do a class that's really hardcore called The Way of Mastery also. And you want to give yourself a chance to check that one out too. So think about this one in terms of your relationships. Take a breath. Let yourself let it in. And then tell yourself, I love myself enough to let it be different right now.
My thing. Music has the power to really touch people,
You're
reach
completely
people, uplift
innocent. You're
people,
innocent.
instruct, educate, heal,
Innocent.
and
Innocent.
probably